watch me grow my following from basically kind of 0 to 10,000 within 3 months.
You set this audacious goal.
$20,000 in the first 2 months of working for myself.
If you're a top performer, you want to put in your best. There's a mindset towards it, and that's why we always start with the mindset. Welcome to the GrowthPlug Podcast with Wilson Obeneme. And on this podcast, we typically talk about things ranging from leadership to productivity to growth, and just having all the real conversations for people who are ambitious and looking for ways to grow. We have real conversations here. And today we happen to be running our very first podcast studio recording, and I'm super excited about this. And that's why I brought the guest who is also starting something new, and she'll be sharing her experience with us along with what we're doing today. So, Alicia, how are you doing? Nice to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Wilson. I'm good. I love doing this in person. It's so
Nice.
to be
Same here. This is my very first session in person. So you're breaking the barrier. You're setting us free into more of this session.
It's
So
a really nice studio. Like, well
yeah,
done
it
for
is.
picking that one.
Thank you. It's really nice. Okay, so I guess a lot of people will want to know you. So first, I would say going through your profile, it's super impressive. You've worked for some of the biggest brands in the world, MasterCard, Gartner. I'm a huge fan of Gartner, and most recently LinkedIn. And now you have this remarkable journey you're going through, and I'm sure people want to hear. But before that, how would you best describe yourself right now? Yes.
Oh my God, right now I would say I'm like a headless chicken, honestly. But to honestly speak the truth, I left LinkedIn 3 weeks ago now, almost 4 weeks, so at the beginning of July, and basically always worked in corporate for 15 years, big companies, and now going from such rigid structures to nothing. Having my own business, it's not nothing, but it's so exciting, but also very overwhelming and still a lot to figure out. So yeah, excited headless chicken. Let's put it that way.
Well, even if you use the phrase headless chicken, which is not at all, it takes a lot of courage to do what you just decided to do. So, for someone who has spent 15 plus years, like you mentioned, I think a lot of people will look at you in the corporate world and be like, hey, I want to be like Alicia. So how was your time within the corporate world, not just LinkedIn, but generally? How would you say it was?
Yeah, it's the dream for so many people, isn't it? Especially those names. I started off with SAP as my first employer, literally starting off with one of the biggest companies in the world. And then MasterCard, Gartner, LinkedIn, worked for a few smaller-ish companies, but the smaller-ish companies had still 10,000 employees. That is just insane. Yeah. And look, those companies are all amazing, especially I worked in tech. So work-life balance and wellness, they're actually really well set out in those big organizations. You get great salary, great benefits. It is great for people that want that structure. But I always had that itch of doing my own thing, having freedom, and I don't want to get too carried away. But in my eyes, I just really wanted to do my own thing. And the older you get, and a year passes and a year passes again and again, and you haven't done it. And then you think I'm now 35, it's halfway to 70. So really scary. But look, what reasons, what else needs to be there for me to delay it again? Yeah. So I just thought
when would you say that feeling started? Can you put a time to it, or has it always been like that for you? You just knew you wanted to do corporate for a while and then go into your stuff?
I think I always wanted to do my own thing. But you kind of are thrown into it, especially with what is expected, the norm. The norm is expected to finish school, go to university, start a job, and have a good job. And I come from a family, a working class family, hearing that one of their daughters, and also just by the way, my sister, she has a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a PhD.
Ooh.
I didn't go to university. I was always the black sheep in the family. But it was just kind of expected to work for a prestige company. And then when I started working at SAP, it was already this is your path. And everyone was so proud. And my parents always said look, my daughters, look at them. And yeah. And you just then realize, actually, this is not quite for me. But when you start for a big company, and then you're kind of in it, and they keep you in it because it's the salary, the pension, all of those nice things. And also I want to talk about prestige and like feeling like it is nice when you speak to someone and ask like, what do you do? And you can easily say like, oh yeah, I work for MasterCard. Everyone knows MasterCard. It's so easy. And everyone's like, oh wow, that's really cool. That's also something that I was really proud of and I wanted to keep and maintain.
Yeah.
Like when you then, like right now, when someone asks me, what do you do? It's way more complex. Need to figure out an easy way to say what I'm doing. But yeah, that just like kind of keeps you in. But I always wanted to do my own thing. So that was always like the itch.
Yeah. And what was the trigger? What was the point where you were like, okay, now I know I've always wanted to do this. And the reason why is because I can relate with what you're saying completely. Going through school, being top of the class, working for a big organization as well. But I know something was always there saying, hey, you have to do this. And I think there was a turning point for me where I was like, now I have to do this. For you, was there any particular thing that struck the chord for you that maybe
kind of I realized whenever I was in a job for 2 years, I kind of got like ants in my pants. Like I always got like a bit bored and I got frustrated and I didn't enjoy it as much anymore. And then what I did is I just switched companies and then onto the next one. And whenever you switch like those corporate jobs, you get like a bigger pay. So that was nice. You're climbing the ladder. But then I used to work in sales and I never really wanted to go down the management route. So I always stayed as like, they call it an IC. So like always just like my own targets and I work basically for myself within a team. And I kind of reached like that seniority where there was no level up. Like I would have needed to go into management. And when I was at LinkedIn and I was again reaching like that 2-year mark where it's like getting frustrated, something is not quite right. And like I got a bit bored. And then I thought LinkedIn is by far the best company I've ever worked for. Like work-life balance, the way how they look after their employees, like pay, everything. Everything was perfect. Like you get free lunch, which is nice.
What?
I know. Breakfast and lunch and snacks and everything, like amazing company to work for. And I realized, what else could I do? Like if I were to go to another company, one, they won't pay me more because I already reached that ceiling. And then no company would be better. So I was thinking, like, what else can I do? And then I realized, like, there must be something else that triggers that frustration. And then I was just like thinking about, like, it is that age. So this is why I thought, okay, now I have to do it.
Interesting. And then you did something really courageous, which I don't think I've seen before. You were working for LinkedIn and decided to do a countdown to leaving LinkedIn on LinkedIn. Who does that?
I know. I know.
But walk us through, what were you thinking when you decided to do that? Because I'm sure you knew that was going to bring a lot of talks like, hey, what are you doing? What's going on here? You're working for us. I don't know if they did that officially, but it's expected. And it says countdown to freedom.
Yeah.
Right. And I know it might not really be about LinkedIn. It's just you expressing yourself, but that whole dynamics can get really complex. So first, what made you decide to do that and how did you manage that change? And the reason is for some people, even basically going on LinkedIn, they don't even work for LinkedIn to share their thoughts. They are already apprehensive. What will my boss think? What will the company think? So I think maybe what you have to say will help people in that category.
Yeah. Oh, it is so common for a lot of people that are still in a corporate job and they want to set up their side business or they already do their side business and they can't really promote their side business because their employer is like really looking at them, what they're doing like publicly, so they can't really talk about it. I always, and still working at LinkedIn, I always said to my clients and like to my friends, etc., your employer does not own your LinkedIn profile. Like it is your own profile. You can in theory do whatever you want with your profile, whatever message you want to put out, etc. Of course, you need to be cautious. If you want to stay in your job, you don't want to piss off your employer. And sorry for all that swearing. So you need to find a way. How can you position yourself, like, for example, on LinkedIn in a way that is like pleasing your employer, but also helping you with your business. And at LinkedIn, this was exactly how I kind of paved the way as well for me to then jump ship. So I grew my following whilst I was still at LinkedIn and before I have handed in my notice. I was growing it in a way that I could already lay the foundation, but I can also talk about LinkedIn. And the funny thing is, even though I was a LinkedIn employee, hardly any LinkedIn employees post on LinkedIn. And it's so funny. Nobody tells you on LinkedIn like how to show up, how to post. Like it's just, anyways, so I had to learn it all. But then when I handed in my notice, I was then like, now I really need to make sure that I can set the foundation for my business. But I also did it in a way, whenever I was talking about like the countdown to freedom, always highlighted that LinkedIn was an amazing company to work for, because it truly is. Like it truly is. And I also mentioned in a few posts saying, like, I still give 100% to my clients. I still go above and beyond. Like, I will still deliver excellence whilst I work for LinkedIn. But I'm also very excited for my time after LinkedIn. And this is what I'm building and this is what I'm doing. So I'm doing like both in parallel currently. And I try to make that message very clear.
No, good. And I really agree with you. I know some people have had terrible experiences with their employees. I still tell people, like, the company I worked for is still one of the best. If you ask me, I'll tell you, hey, you can like work for them, because I had a great time. You don't have to leave on a bad note. And I like what you did, which is delivering, even though you know you were leaving. And you actually helped me recover my LinkedIn account. Thank you.
Oh, you are welcome.
Yeah, because I know I was stuck and frustrated at some point. And so I was like, hey, talk to her. And yeah, you really helped me. So thank you. And let's bring that into context. People wait till they are extremely frustrated with work, where they don't want to give anything before they leave. And then maybe you spend maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years there. People know you as someone who delivers, but the final period of your time there, because you're so frustrated, you really just more or less scatter what you've built, right? So how can people manage that a bit better? Because I truly believe, as much as possible, right, you should have a smooth transition. It doesn't have to be something that is devastating and with a bad record. If you're a top performer, keep it up as much as possible, because I feel you really translate that energy into your own stuff. So what do you have to say for people who, they're getting almost frustrated?
Yeah.
Yeah, what would you say to them?
Yeah.
From your experience?
And that resonates so much, because whenever I hit that like 2-year mark and I started to be frustrated, and working in a sales role, you can see this in your performance, like very clearly in your numbers. Like, I know I've always been a top performer. I know this because like deal sizes, etc., like president's clubs. And then when I start getting frustrated, I'm not putting in the work. I'm not putting in the quality that I used to. And then also thinking about myself is, I'm not satisfied with the way how I show up, but also I don't have the desire to show up in that way anymore, because I am kind of like frustrated. And the frustration is not just like policies, etc. It's a frustration where you feel like internally you're doing something that is not 100% aligned with what you want to do. You're losing kind of your spark, and then your performance is lagging. So I think when you're still in a job and you are thinking about, okay, how can I bring that spark back, or how can I be like, more enthusiastic about my job? And you either have a side business or you're thinking about a side business, think about what drives your energy. What can you do? Something that gives you excitement right now, but also perhaps something that somewhat is an umbrella to what you're currently still doing. Can you bring anything that you're currently working on the side over into your day job? And then also, this is a brilliant message on LinkedIn when you start like building your personal brand. You can talk about the learnings you take from setting up your own business. Like, for example, if you want to set up a coaching business, let's say career coaching, you can say like, I'm starting to set up my career like coaching business. I'm learning this and this in those modules that I'm maybe currently going through, or like the licenses like that I'm acquire, or saying like, I'm already working with some clients like aside of my job. I'm learning this and this is what I bring into my day job. Like, you can like bring those parallels, and that helps you to, one, be excited in your life in general about like the side business and what you're really passionate about, but also still be happy in your employment. And your employer, like your manager, they should, if they're not very like backwards in their thinking, they should embrace that. They should think like, that is insane. Like, that is great. Like the outside perspective, like the new way of thinking, like bringing like broader perspectives into what is maybe like a very like routine driven business. That would be great. That should be applauded. So I think this is a brilliant way.
Wonderful. And I can relate with having a manager that understands this stuff. My manager, before I left, shout out to Paul, he was very supportive, right? He saw that, in fact, what happened was I started a podcast outside, and he was like, why don't you bring the podcast idea inside?
We love Paul. That's exactly
It was
what
like,
you want in a leader.
you're God sent.
Yes.
And that's how great leaders are, right? He was like, hey, if this is something you really want to do, you're building stuff out there. Why don't you think of bringing? And I actually did a few episodes there, and it just gave me so much peace to say, okay, my boss really appreciates what I'm doing, as long as it's not obviously affecting your performance. He was so open to bringing new ideas, and the role I was doing was this. We call it a citizen development role. So you get to teach people stuff about basic tech within the organization, and podcast is like one great way to
Perfect.
to do that.
That is perfect. And I love this, because so many people are so scared of telling their employer that they're doing something on the side, or that they are frustrated and they just keep it quiet and it just gets like bigger and bigger, that frustration. But actually, and Simon Squibb actually talks about this in his book as well, if you're thinking about leaving your job, you should tell your manager. You should tell them that like, this is something you're thinking about. You're not quite there yet, maybe, but you can say like, I want to do something else. I want to do something broader. I'm like a bit bored. I want to bring in like new perspectives, etc. Your manager should applaud this. Like your manager should really like equip you to be successful. And LinkedIn actually has done studies on this, like LinkedIn in terms of like workforce, like analytics, looking at like the future of work. And they say like those companies perform the best that allow their employees to be something better or else, something outside of that organization. So they say high performing employees are those ones that perform incredibly well in their role, but then also gearing themselves up for something bigger and better and greater, whether that's a different role or outside of the organization or their own business, whatever it is. But you should groom your employees to like have that like determination of wanting to be better and using that role to really upskill themselves and also deliver greatly at the same time.
No, I think it's spot on, because most people get stuck in just doing the same stuff. For somebody to want to do something outside, most times the person really is a big thinker, right? And you don't need to dilute that by saying, hey, stay this way. The person will get frustrated. So now let's talk post. That now you're in a new season, you're in a new era. And I know we've had a couple of conversations of how you're finding it, but now how are you finding it? Let's be real.
No, I honestly, like, I absolutely love it. I love it. I remember like the first Sunday after I left my job, and I realized I don't have to go to work on Monday. That was insane. Like that feeling, like no longer like the Sunday scaries of like, oh, like 9 a.m. team meeting or something like this. I was just so happy. And then also that first Monday was like, I can do whatever I want. I mean, it's also scary. Like having like a blank canvas and you can do basically anything you want. You need to make sure that you know where to spend your time and you're not just like procrastinating, or like you can be so busy and not actually achieve anything. And that is currently like the phase I'm figuring out where I need to spend my time. But just like that feeling of freedom, oh my God, is like, it's the best feeling. And I'm still in like kind of like they say like this kind of like honeymoon phase where I just absolutely love my life. We will see. It might all like bring me back down to earth, but right now I'm just enjoying it so much.
Friday, 1 p.m., you're having a podcast.
How good is that? Honestly, like when I was on the train, I was looking around and I was thinking like, who are those people that at like 12 p.m. like sit on the train? Like, what are they doing? Why are they not at work? And then I was thinking, oh, I'm not at work. I do my work.
And yeah, I think everyone, we go through that period. The first day, like when you really start, you're like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? Usually your boss should give you a target and then you start chasing the target. But now you create your target, you drive yourself, you get it done, and make sure it aligns with a bigger goal that you might not even have at that time. And it's like, okay, how do I figure this out? But I think it's a natural process, right? As you keep going, it just gets better. But let's come back to you. I know you set this audacious goal of making an amount.
20,000, we can say the amount.
Ooh.
$20,000 in the first 2 months of working for myself.
Ooh.
So it will be by the end of August.
By the end of August. And when you made that statement, and I also believe in saying things out loud, right? Because when you do it, one, building in public puts a bit of pressure, but it also keeps you motivated, right? But for you, how is that going? What are you getting out of this whole building in public, one, and then try new stuff out like this? You haven't done this before. It's literally your first time. How is it going building a business and doing that mostly in public?
Yeah. So building in public. So I've always been building in public. So when I first started posting on LinkedIn, I actually said like, watch me grow my following from basically kind of zero. Well, I was at like 2,000, but they were like old connections, not really like active, to 10,000 within 3 months. And I had like kind of a tracker where people could see like how I'm progressing. And I kept people in the loop with like, how is it going? Like, what are the highs, the lows, how I'm tracking towards my target. And that really brought people like onto this journey and like really invested. And I got messages of people saying like, oh, I see you're now at 8,000 followers. And it is just so cool. And then once I achieved that goal, which like one day before the deadline, I hit those 10,000. I was like, thank God. That was close. Also, which is so funny, like I had no idea whether it would be hard or easy to hit like 10,000 followers within 3 months. I had no idea. but that shows whatever goal you set yourself, you will achieve it.
Yeah.
If I would have set a goal of 20,000 followers, I might have achieved it. If I would have set a goal for 5,000 followers, I would have hit 5,000. Like, you know your goal and you will work towards it. Like, the universe will just provide. I know this sounds so woo-woo, but it's like I had that goal, and like by the day, more or less, I hit it. Anyways, and then afterwards I had like this corporate, like, to freedom, like, kind of countdown. And then I wanted to do another journey in public because I love building and I love bringing people onto a journey. And I'm very transparent. Like, I'm also saying, like, look, this is how I'm currently tracking and this is not working and this is working. And like, you can celebrate together. This is how you get people like really invested in you and like that person, what you do, etc. So I'm 3 weeks into my journey.
Yeah.
I just signed a very big deal, which is nice.
Yay.
That brings me a big chunk closer. I actually haven't done the maths in a while because I needed to remove that statement from my headline because I'm currently doing a bit of like a workshop on like how to upscale your LinkedIn profile further and like LinkedIn game further. I like to think I'm an expert on how to build a brand on LinkedIn, but I always like to think there is more to learn. So I'm currently going through like a module where they actually teach you around like clarity on your profile. And by me talking about LinkedIn personal branding, but then also talking about like corporate life and then also talking about making money as a business owner, that was very confusing for the algorithm. So I have been advised to like condense it and be really clear. But I'm actually keeping, so I have like a separate like community, a WhatsApp channel, and I keep people updated on like my progress there. But yeah, currently I am tracking well. Let's say
Amazing.
I'm just short of 10K.
And well, then congrats on your deal. I know you mentioned before we started, Scott, like that is fantastic. And I think successes like that just keeps you motivated because, like, okay, this is barely 3 weeks or 4 weeks into your
Insane, isn't it?
right? And you're almost hitting the 10K mark.
But also I didn't rest. Like, I must say, like, that's the thing. A lot of people that like quit their job, they go traveling, which is fine, like, by all means. And a lot of people just need that for themselves. They are so burned out, they just need to get out. But I was just so hyped up and so excited to finally start my business because I also love doing this. Like, this is really where I get energy from. I didn't want it to travel because I was just like, I want to get going. So I must say, like, I was like literally day one. Okay, no, I had one day off. But like day two, I was like on it.
Come back. Wow, that's just remarkable. And just checking. So, and by the way, I follow you. I'm part of your group. You should follow her on LinkedIn and probably join her community on WhatsApp because I'm there and I get free tips. And that has also helped me. Like, I'm just pushing it. When it comes to the numbers game, I'm not that bullish on it, to be honest. But I understand, like, your tips have been very, very helpful. And now let's say, how do you distinguish yourself on LinkedIn? Because a lot of people will do something close to what you do. People will talk about what you talk about. So for those who, because I hear a lot of people say, okay, even if I'm to leave my job, or even if I want to go on LinkedIn, I don't know where to start. What am I going to post about? You know, that imposter syndrome also shows up. I think it does with everybody at some point, but you just go past it. So if someone wants to, a newbie on LinkedIn, this person wants to have their voice out there, they know there's more to all of this. What would you say? How can they start? What should they do?
Just start. I know this is such silly advice, but it's like the more you think about what should I post? Is this the right message? Is this the right branding? Is this like the core like way how I want to be known for, set up for? I mean, of course, on paper, we want you to be like all perfectly set up and then start posting with exactly the right content, etc. But you get into this like analysis paralysis and then you don't post at all, or you find it is a chore. Like you start posting and then you think about, oh, and what am I going to post next? And I'm not quite sure what to post. And then you don't post, or there's like a day where you don't post, a second day, a third day, and then it's so much harder to come back. So I just advise anyone to just start posting it, and also naturally you will see what are you actually enjoying to talk about. This is how I figured out what I wanted to do, because when I started posting on LinkedIn, I didn't even think that I wanted to like do like a personal branding kind of business, building a community, etc. It's all just came about because I started posting. And I think this is the best way when you're not quite sure yet what to talk about, start talking about things that you are passionate about. There are no strict rules. I mean, if you want to say like, okay, I want to grow to X amount of followers in this timeline, silly, I know. Then you need to be like a bit more strategic about like how you approach it, what you do. But actually, if you're like a complete newbie, and I mean, I did work for LinkedIn. It's not that I started from like zero in terms of like no idea about the platform. Like I know from the back end how the platform works, but just not in practice. But anyways, it's just put yourself out there, start posting, and then naturally you will see what you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And yeah.
No, good. And now let's switch to productivity and being a high performer, because you've literally moved from being a high performer in a company to driving yourself as a high performer. And that's what I think people sometimes miss. I know I mentioned this earlier. If you're not someone who is quite driven by yourself, self-driven, when you start off by yourself, then there might be issues there. So,
Quick question for
yeah,
you, though,
yeah,
because you have more experience there. But
yeah.
do you think that once you find what you're passionate about, you will be driven? Or do you think you can find people that love to be a yoga teacher, but actually they still don't have that like go-getter attitude?
So I found people, and this is a good question because I coach a lot of people, and I've seen people who, in their mind, that's the best way I can describe it. In their mind, they are passionate about things, but their actions don't show that they're passionate about it.
And then I wonder, are they actually following the right passion? Is that actually
Yes.
their true passion?
So I think a couple of things can make someone who maybe was once passionate or is passionate about something hold back. So I have one of these clients, very smart, um, and she always wanted to build something, an app for something, and she knew she wanted to do it, but for some reason she just had this blocker because she was scared of putting herself out there just so she wouldn't fail. Is it that she's not passionate about it? She's very passionate. In fact, she tries to talk to people about it, but not in the scale she really wants to do that. And when she came into the program, after working with her for less than a month, she actually started doing something because it was one of our goals. Like, okay, now we're not just talking about it; you have to walk the talk. And that's what I tell people: your passion is not very validated if you don't do something about it. It's if it just sits in your heart, then there's a tendency it might not go beyond that. So no matter how small, no matter how little, what step can you take today to really show that you're passionate about something? It's like, and maybe to use it very generic thing that people talk about love. When someone says, "Hey, I love someone," it's not just the word. There's an action that shows you actually do.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing with, and that's what I say to people. If you say you're passionate about something, passion is not meant to be a description. It's meant to be an action.
Yeah.
Something that has to show up for you to then know that you're actually passionate about it. And when you take that first step, it just reinforces whatever you believe you are passionate about. So that's what I say to people. If you haven't taken action towards your passion, you will still doubt you have that passion, truthfully.
Yeah.
So that's why for me, when I coach people, I'm like, okay, now we've helped you discover yourself. What are you doing next? Our program doesn't end till you take an action and take it consistently, because then you can build on that. We're not saying figure everything out. Clarity comes as you take actions. That's what happens.
And it's so true. A lot of people, they sign up
Yeah.
to a program thinking, well, I pay money and then they will like do everything for
Nah.
me. But that's the thing. Nah, that's exactly the thing. You have to take the action. It is on you. The program helps you, guides you, and accelerates everything. But you have to take the action.
You have to. You have to. If people have read the James Clear book, I know it's one of the things your community actually
Yeah. Brilliant book. It's actually the most sold self-development book.
1% better every day. Just focus on that.
Yeah.
Right. Amazing book. And it talked around different things that can help people become better, from the cues to actually then doing things and just helping yourself move in the direction you want. So from being a top performer in an organization and then transitioning now, what are some things that has probably kept that momentum for you across different roles? Because that's the thing about being a top performer. It's not tied to a company, it's not tied to a role. I tell people that if you say you're a top performer and in your former job, one job you performed, the next job you did not perform, yes, there might be things around there, but that's not how it should be. I once did a role I hated, literally, no jokes, right? I disliked the role because of how much stress it was on me. But guess what? I was still the top performer in the team. I hated the job.
This is, by the way, how burnout happens.
Yeah.
If you are really working hard on something that is not rewarding.
But I knew I had to leave as soon as possible. So I think that was one of the shortest role I did. But I did not allow it because I know what you were saying. I was feeling the strain because as someone, if you're a top performer, you want to put in your best. You don't want to just sit back. It's not your nature. I don't want to use the word nature before people will think that you're born with this stuff. People learn them, right? But it's just there's a mindset towards it. And that's why we always start with the mindset. where you get to change how you think. So let's look at your
Yeah.
journey as a top performer. What has worked for you, right?
Yeah.
What has really worked for you?
Mindset is so interesting. And I don't think this is like a very beautiful or inspirational answer, but I'm someone who is very driven by recognition, external validation.
Yeah.
And I just want to say this out loud because I know this is not great. Like, it's not the best, like, character trait to have, but I think a lot of people are like this.
Okay.
And whether that stems from like whatever childhood turbulences or whatever, we are humans. We live in a society. We want to be liked by other humans, and some people have this more inside of them than others.
Yeah.
And for me, I always wanted to be liked. Also, I'm neurodivergent, so I have ADHD, and autism as well is one of the key traits of people with like a neurodivergent brain, of having that like desire to be liked,
Yeah.
which is so silly. But hopefully if someone hears this, they feel like, oh, thank God, this is not just me. And I just wanted to outperform in every job to be liked. I always said to my manager, and I was actually quite transparent about this, like when I closed the deal, I didn't care as much about the money. I mean, I did by all means very much care about the money, but I cared more about the recognition. When I close a deal and the manager is not giving me the praise that I think I deserve, or like the team email that goes out, I'm frustrated. And this actually happened at LinkedIn. I closed one of the biggest deals in the whole like kind of like 2-year space that I was in, like a massive deal. And it kind of like got brushed under the table. Various reasons now in hindsight, like I really analyzed this. Like I now know why, and there was no like bad feelings like from people, like there was nothing malicious behind it. It just literally just kind of like fell off the table. But that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. I try to actually, as a German, I try to learn more like English proverbs. I think that makes you sound more sophisticated. I try. So not getting that recognition, that really, was for me like the final bit for wanting to really leave LinkedIn and do my own thing. But having that recognition, that really helps me, because as you said, like you were also in a role that you didn't like, but you were still the top performer. I also have done this. I was once for a short stint in a customer success role, which is still like a little bit sales, but not really like hardcore sales. And I hated it. And I only hated it because I was doing a bloody good job, and I was doing the job of the account manager that I was assigned with. And they landed the deal, but it was actually my work. But they got all the recognition. They got the money, but also they got the shout outs and everything. And I was just behind the scenes, like fuming. So I think for me it was like the external validation. And it's so funny that I'm now building like a personal brand, which is all about like external validation. So maybe I need to speak to a therapist.
And you've actually built a strength out of it, to be honest. One thing I like about you is you being authentic, right? A lot of people probably go through this and they'll be like, nah, I have it within me. Hey, if it's not, just say what it is, and maybe you can actually get people to support you and help you through if that needs to change, right?
Exactly that. And there might be other people that think like, I'm thinking in exactly the same way, but I was too scared to say it out loud, or I wasn't like, no, I didn't know that other people felt the same way. And I hope it is just refreshing for someone to just say like, this is what was the driver for me.
Yeah. I'm currently working with a client, and I enjoy it because I've worked with this person before, and I was like, why do you want to do something? This person wants to do something. And the person was like, money.
You know what? So what?
Exactly.
I'm just reading a book. 10x is easier than 2x. Bloody love this book. And it's all about, you don't need to justify your goals, your desires, your dreams to anyone, because we are so like brought up with like society in school as being an employee, that like whenever you chase after a limited resource like money, for example, that means you're taking away from someone else who can't have it. But that is so silly. Like by you actually up-leveling yourself and making more money, you create opportunities, you create resources that will make the world a better place.
Indeed.
Like all of the things that exist today, just like the internet, us talking here, is because someone took action, and that is just helping now other people.
Indeed.
So it's a mindset shift. So don't ever justify yourself what your motives are.
And I think naturally people grow beyond. At first, maybe it might be the money, but I said this to this person. Some of the wealthiest people we have, maybe it started as a pursuit for money, but I think naturally it would transcend beyond that to something bigger. Natural. You don't need to force it. What happens is people try to force it when they're starting off, right? And you try to, if money is your driver, if that works for you, start. Naturally, you get to the point where when you have all the things you want, I think at somebody you think of like, okay, now I have the money. what next?
And the question is, why money? Like, what do you need the money for?
Yes.
Exactly. And for me, it was always, I wanted to have enough money that I have like coming in every month that I can do whatever I want. Exactly. I have the lifestyle that I want that is like to the standards that I have these days.
Yeah.
And then I can just do whatever I want. I can invest in other companies. I can do this. I can open a yoga studio, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But this is what money brings me, is that freedom. And I think it's the same for other people, but they sometimes don't even think about like the why behind
For
it.
me, it's the flexibility. Like it gives you enough to do what you want and to reach out. Like in my mind, I have so many things like I want to build, and I know I need money to build all those things. And that's why when I have conversations like this with potential investors, I tell them like, this is why I need the money. I want to build stuff. This is what I'm building. It's not something you should be ashamed of saying. I know
No.
people sometimes it comes with shame, but it doesn't have to, right?
Yeah, that is one of the key reasons why I publicly talk about like making those 20,000 by the end of August, because I want to remove this kind of filter around we can't talk about money.
Yeah.
Like it's all like this taboo. Why not? It helps to inspire other people.
Yep.
It helps to see what is possible, especially for us women. Like we are so like brought up with you have to like be quiet, show the work for itself, like be humble.
Yeah.
You need to talk about these things because then you can benchmark yourself. You see what other people are doing. You can learn from them. You can ask for their advice, and also you can inspire others. So
Indeed.
yeah.
Indeed.
Oh, I love that you think in that way. I'm very passionate about this.
I am. And I say that to my people. And I would share maybe something. So I'm a person of faith. And money is also something that people don't really talk about within our faith practice because it's like, it's vanity. You might get lost. While it's true, but one of the people I listen to, he always says, like, to do great things, actually, you need money to be able to push that vision up. So even if you have a great vision you want to do, without the right resources, you struggle to get the right people and you struggle to get the right systems to build that stuff. So for me, when I talk to people, regardless of where I find myself, I tell them you should understand that money helps you do a lot of things. It might not be the end goal, and I don't think just having random money that you just throw around should be what you pursue. You will get it, and then what next? Have a bit bigger vision, but don't ever downplay the need to actually go for something that will bring you money.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
There is this tale, I don't know exactly how it goes, but it's about like a fisherman that is just like fishing every day. And then a businessman starts like talking to him, and it's all about like, oh, what would you do if you could actually like 10x your like outcomes, etc. The fisherman said like, I would still do the same thing every day because this is what he absolutely loves doing.
Yeah. Good. This has been fun. Okay, so now let's talk to people who are still stuck. I know we've said quite a lot. This is a phase where I want you to really passionately speak to them. People who they feel stuck in their job, they are not fulfilled. They feel burnt out. They dread Mondays, like, oh no, it's Monday again. And I'm saying this because I know a lot of them. They are people I coach, but maybe it's good it comes from someone like you. And they're just like, okay, maybe give it 3 more years, maybe in 5 years' time. I want you to just speak to them. What would you say if you had someone like that sitting in front of you, and this person is clearly not having a good time? This person usually they feel like if I leave the job, everything is gone. What will be my anchor? So what would you say to them? Because these are the real conversations people often run away from. They don't want to talk about it, but they know it's there. It's just you not expressing yourself. So you have recently done this and doing it even with not everything figured out, like you said. You don't have everything figured out, but you're taking the step. Same thing I did, but what would you say to them? People that are going through this stage.
Thinking about regret. I've done an exercise where you visualize yourself being like 90 years old, sitting on your veranda. This sounds very American, but like, yeah, sitting basically in like your rocking chair and like you're old, reflecting back on your life. Exactly. I really have this like image in my mind sitting on a veranda. It looks lovely. Yeah, and you reflect on your life and you think about, I regret not having done ... I regret not having said. I wish I would have. So it's basically like kind of like a reflection exercise where you really think about, okay, if you talk to your like 90-year-old self, what would they say about you right now?
Yeah.
Like, what are the regrets if you continue living your life the way how you do right now? What are the regrets that you're going to have at the end of your life? Our lives are so short.
It is.
So short. And once you realize this, you're like, I really need to change something. And that was for me like the bigger why. Like, again, like another year. And oftentimes it's when it's people's birthdays or like the end of the year where they realize, okay, it's another year and you still haven't done it. And for me, it was literally like turning 35 because, as I said, like halfway to 70, that was like, fuck. Also thinking like for me in my life, and this is very personal, but like I don't have any kids yet. I'm not sure if I want to have kids, but if I want to have kids, then I know it will be 10 times harder to make that decision.
Yeah.
So I just thought like, okay, if not now, when will I do it? But then also in terms of money, and I also want to be very transparent about this, I'm not in like the best financial situation. Whilst I had a really high paying job, I also have credit card debt. I also had some loans. Like there was a lot of stuff going on, and still is, behind the scenes that was holding me back in the past, but also right now, basically, like this could have been like the biggest decision of saying like, okay, actually financially I need to save up like 3 months. I'm not a financial advisor by all means, don't follow my advice, but like so many people could have just said like, stay in your job, like sort out your finances first, and then when you have like enough of a buffer, then you can do it. But then there would be another reason. Then you would be sick, then you would have a kid, then you would be like, you never know what's going to happen. There is never the right time. There's never all lights on green. So you just need to pick that time. Once it hits you, it hits you. Like once you realize, don't want to live with regret, you can't like, reel that back in.
Yeah. Oh, very, very passionate about it, and you're spot on. I say that to people like, do you know where people even feel it the most? When you then see somebody doing what you felt you should be doing.
I saw this actually on TikTok. I love TikTok. So think about it. If you are seeing your life on a screen right now, imagine you're like in the cinema and there's an audience and they watch your life. What would be the audience screaming at you right now to do? And that was exactly for me as well. Like I saw this on TikTok, and I saw this like at the end of March, and at the end of April I handed in my notice. But like I saw it at the end of March, and I was like, they will scream to finally quit your job. Like just
do it.
Because also I was thinking, what is the worst case scenario? For me, the worst case scenario, I would just go back into a corporate job.
Indeed.
And I was living my worst case scenario at that point. So it's just like, what is your worst case scenario? And just think about like, can you live with that? And if the answer is, wouldn't be great, but yeah, I could, then do it. Don't regret it.
In fact, it feels like we had a meeting somewhere and we thought about the same thing, because for me, a couple of things led to mine as well. But for me, I'm like, if I don't do this now, when? Because as we age, your appetite for risk decreases. You're not, you know that you're wasting that age where you're allowed to make mistakes. Right, there's an age. I know anyone can do anything at any time, but I always say to people, it's better when you do it early, right? So it gives you that time to really enjoy what you've done and make even bigger impact. And for me is, and like you said, something else will come up, and then what? You keep waiting? No, go for it. What is the worst case? Go back into the corporate world. And the thing is, even if you're going back, you're most likely going back on a higher level because your mind is no longer the same. And when people are recruiting, they will understand that this person is quite visionary, this person is driven. So for me, this is even an upskilling program, right? Which I don't think I'll ever leave. But peradventure, I decide to, I'll go back into the corporate world.
And there's also no shame around this. I think people are so scared of like failing. But actually, you might, like, when you start working for yourself on your own, you quit that corporate job and you realize, actually, it's not working out. It might actually because you really crave that structure of a corporate company. Like it might be that actually it's something that you were quite happy in, but then at least you know you've tried it. And if it doesn't work, then you know you want to go back. Like, and there is no shame. It's like this big thing, like, failure.
Failure is part of the game. Like I always say to people, this is my 5th business. 3 failed, 2 are working. I'm proud of it. And guess what? I don't mind if another fails. I will go back again.
It's so funny. I literally just drafted a new LinkedIn post around this, like how often I failed with my businesses. It's ridiculous. Oh my God. The amount of shit, like Amazon, like drop shipping and like, I've done in like a multi-marketing scheme, like selling body shop products in like body shop parties. Fuck hell. But it's like, you try and you learn and
Okay, we have come to the end of the serious talk. Now let's say something, because now they've been saying the Alicia that is so serious, running after businesses and everything,
Getting that money.
getting the money. But beyond that, what do you do? How do you just relax? I know you didn't take like a long time off. I didn't as well, but I have a way I just relax. How about you? What do you do for fun? How do you stay refreshed? Because as a productivity coach, I would tell you rest is important. It's good to find a way to just relax. So how do you relax?
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be necessarily relaxing,
Okay.
but something that I did, which is quite nuts, but I'm so bloody excited. My boyfriend and I, we were laying on the sofa. He was having a nap, and I was on TikTok. As I said, really like TikTok. And I was scrolling, and I saw a TikTok about the Backstreet Boys performing in Las Vegas in the Sphere. Like there's like it's incredible. It's like this like immersive like whole cinema. It's insane. Anyone look up the Sphere. It's insane. So they're basically having like their residency in Las Vegas now, where they perform in the Sphere with like this amazing like visuals. And I saw this and I thought like, well, the Backstreet Boys, they're getting older. Who
Yeah.
knows if I will ever be able to see them like live. So whilst my boyfriend was still napping, I booked tickets for Las Vegas to see the Backstreet Boys. I booked the flights. I booked the hotel. We're going for just a week, but like I'm so excited. And this will be like my first like trip, like kind of holiday since like leaving my job. Also, it's very scary because it's not cheap flying to Las Vegas. We're flying economy, like we're keeping it like low vibe. But I'm so excited. And I think this is exactly why I wanted to quit my job as well, that I can just say like, I'm just going to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Like I just do this. I don't need to ask anyone for annual leave, but nothing. I just do it. And also I think like when I was still in a job and I needed like money, I know how much I can earn, even in a sales role, you kind of still have like kind of a ceiling. Now that I'm self-employed, I will make money. I can find ways to make money because there's so many opportunities out there if you're open for them. So I just love this, like having that mindset and that belief of like, you can go on whatever trips you want. You can pay for those trips. Just live your life. This is what life is living for, seeing the Backstreet Boys live before they retire.
Yes. Thank you for sharing. And thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been amazing just hearing what you have to say. I know I've been following your work and we've been chatting, but it's just good sitting in the studio talking about this stuff. Really a pleasure. Thank you for giving so many things. I'm sure people will go back and listen to this over and over again. They have so much to learn from it. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Wilson.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And to our guests, thank you for listening in. And just keep it coming. This is the first, like I said, in a studio. Expect more of this. We're having more people in London do things like this, and I look forward to the next one. So take care of yourself and see you next time.